Bentornati su Deynont, oggi voglio proporre un video per quanto riguarda the rules of the Codex Space Marine 2020. Because it's really quite full of rules, I decided to create different videos with a focus each one on a different set of videos. And you can find everything about such rules in the playlist in the description, so not worry about this. And remember that you can find everything there. So now you can start seeing the rules related about the psychic disciplines, the librarius discipline and the obscuration discipline. Each librarian has written in the description how many psychic power it can take and where you can roll off them or choose them. Remember that about Smite you can find it in the playlist about the rules for the call book in the psychic power section, so you can also see that one. So now we can begin seeing these disciplines. We can begin with the Librarius discipline, and the first psychic power that we can find is Veil of Time, that it's a blessing, and it says that it has a charge value for the warp charge of 6, and if successfully select one friendly unit within 18 inch of this psyker, and it gained the effect that until the start of your next psychic phase you can reroll advanced roll and charge rolls made for that unit. Really quite nice. And until the start of your next psychic power, if that unit starts the fight phase within engagement range of an enemy unit, it fight first that phase. It's really quite an amazing psychic power because it lets you have that you can arrive really closer to your goal in any way that you want, because you can make, if you want to move away from your opponent or go toward an objective, have an advanced roll that you can reroll. And if you want to go against an opponent and charge it, you have also the option to reroll. So really quite interesting one, really a good psychic power. The next one is Might of Heroes, that it's still a blessing, and it says that this has a warp charge of 6 again, and if manifested, select one friendly core or charter model, but remember, model, even if it's a core unit, only one model, and this has to be within 12 inch of this cycle, and until the start of your next psychic phase, add 1 to the model strength, focus and attack characteristic. And if a unit has more than one focus characteristic, use the lowest focus characteristic in that unit when resolving any rules. But okay, remember that anyway it's one model, so anyway it would have been so. Remember that this applies to a single model in the unit, so it's not bad, because you can, for example, give some bonuses to a model that has a special weapon or so on, so it's not bad at all. But remember also that for a charter will be again completely about a unit doing this on a single model, it will have a problem about the defense, because the focus it's useless, so pay attention to such detail. Then we have a nude zone, that it's a psychic power that it's defined as a blessing with an aura, so it has a range, but it's not such a blessing as you can think. It has a warp charge value of 7, and it has two effects. The first is that until the start of your next physical phase, while a unit is within 6 inch of this cycle, each time an attack is made against that unit, invulnerable save throws can be made against that attack. Remember, this doesn't say and doesn't talk about enemy or friendly units, and moreover it involves also the psyche itself, so you have to pay attention about this, because it means that even the psyche can't use invulnerable saves. So this is quite a sacrifice one. You have to send a psyche against the enemies in the way that they can't have such invulnerable saves. The second part is that until the start of your next psychic phase, while an enemy psychic unit is within 6 inches of this psychic, halve the total of the psychic test taken for that unit. So it's good because this time at least they specify that it's enemy psychic, otherwise it will require that also the psychic itself will suffer such things. But anyway, what is important is that you have to be quite close to the enemy. The second part is the better one, because if you think about the psychic power that the enemy can use, it means that a roll of 12 it's a 6, so it means that quite a lot of psychic power can fail, so it's quite good. And the first part is a bit problematic. You have to choose quite pay attention which one is the psychic that will going to use such psychic power, because it can make suffer also the psychic itself. The next one is Psychic Scourge, that it's a witchfire with a warp charge of 6. And if manifested, you have to select one enemy unit within 18 inch and visible to the psychic itself, and roll a d6 and add to the psychic leadership characteristic. Then make the opponent do the same, so a d6 and add its own leadership characteristic, and compare the two results. If your psychic total is higher than the one of the opponent, you make d3 mortal wounds to the opponent. If it's the same the result, you give to the opponent 1 mortal wound, otherwise nothing happens. Sincerely, I don't find it so a good thing. Sincerely, I don't find great. It's maybe something that you can think about if you're going to think about using this together to smite to inflict a lot of mortal wounds to the opponent, but sincerely I don't find it a really quite useful one. I prefer other things than such. Really, even if you do this, you are not sure to do something. Think about it if you think that it can be useful for you. And then we have Fury of the Ancients, that it's a witchfire with a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, select one enemy model that is within 18 inch and visible to the psychic itself. Draw a line between any part of this psychic's base and any part of the selected model's base or hull. The selected model's units and every other enemy unit that this line pass over or through suffer 1 mortal wound. It's quite a good one because you are sure to make 1 mortal wound to your target, but if you are good to positioning in a certain way your psyche, you can take even more other units of the enemy, so it becomes really quite good to make more mortal wounds. So really quite good. You have to pay attention the position of the psyche and the direction that you are going to use, that it's from your base and the hull or base of the opponent. So you have to pay a bit of attention about this, but can be really quite an amazing psychic power to make a lot of mortal wounds at the same time. The last one of the Psychic Fortress, it's a Blessing Aura, so it means that it has a range, and with a warp charge value of 6 if manifested, then until the start of the next psychic phase, while a friendly unit is within 6 inch of this psychic, models in that unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. So it's really quite good because it involves the psychic and all the models until one model is within 6 inch of such one. And so if you need invulnerable saves, can be quite an amazing choose, because this is really a great psychic power to gain a invulnerable saves. Really quite amazing. And then we had the Oscuration Discipline, that it's mainly related about librarians in Phobos Armor. The first one that we can see as psychic power for this discipline is Shrouding, that it's a blessing with a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, let you select one friendly Phobos keyword unit within 18 inch of this cycle, and until the start of your next psychic phase, unless that unit is the closest eligible target, enemy models cannot target that unit with ranged attacks. It's really quite amazing as psychic power in a strategic way. Okay, it's related only about Phobos unit, but it's great because it means that if you are going to have a Phobos unit on an objective, that unit can't be targeted. So, or the opponent find a way to make a reserve strategic one that goes there and make it the closest eligible unit, or it has the option to make some unit goes hand to hand against that unit, or that unit is saved so it can finish an action without being disturbed, or it can take an objective. So a really quite amazing one. So really to take note about this psychic power if you are going to use some Phobos librarian, or anyway any Phobos unit to combine with, because you have to need the both ones, but quite a good psychic power. And the next one is Soul Sight, that it's a blessing with a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, let you select one friendly Phobos keyword unit within 18 inches of this cycle, and until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a mod in that unit makes a ranged attack, you can reroll the hit rolls and the target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack. Really, you can reroll the hit rolls and doesn't make the opponent receive the benefit of covers from your ranged attacks for that unit. Really quite good. You need some unit that has a Phobos armor that can make damages, but sincerely, yet this it means that you are sure that you can hit the opponent better. So I think that even if you are going to charge the opponent, or if you want something, anyway, this is not bad at all. So think about this psychic power, about your shooting, if you are able to adjust a bit how to use this, but can be quite an amazing improvement for your army. And then we have Mind Raid, that it's a Witchfire that has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, you can select one enemy model within 18 inch and visible to the cycle, and if you do such, the model's unit suffer 1 mortal wound, and if that model is a character, roll 3d6. If the result is equal or greater than the model's leadership characteristic, you gain 1 command point. Really, it can seem quite amazing one, but you have to remember that generally you do 1 mortal wound simply. What is important about this one is the second part, that it's against the character, but you had to roll 3d6, considering that the average discipline of the opponent's character are usually 9 or 10 without any bonuses. It means that you had to roll a bit high, because in the medium you risk that you are not able to do anything to the opponent as comparing, so you can't gain the command point. So it's not so good, not so bad. It's like having a gaining a command point on F5 plus about as difficulty. So it's something that you can't be sure about. So pay attention. Anyway, it's always interesting because it's a way to do mortal wounds to the opponent, and combined with smite can be quite useful, so eventually think about it. And then we have one of my favorite one that I can think about using a psych in Phobos armor only to use such psychic power. It's hallucination, that it's a malediction. It has a warp charge of 6, and if manifested, let you select one enemy unit within 18 inch and visible to this cycle, and until the start of your next psychic phase, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of models in that unit. But the more interesting part is this one. Until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. It's amazing because it involves both the shooting and the melee. So quite interesting. So it means that if you are not scared, but there is some unit that you are worried about, you can make that it gain maluses about okay, the leadership in the case that it has to do moral tests and so on, that is always useful. But about hit rolls, it's quite good because it means less attacks that can go against your own units. So quite a good psychic power. The next one is Tenebrous Curse, that it's again a malediction and has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit that cannot fly. Remember that the fly units with the keyword fly has not the option to be under this psychic power, and that unit has to be within 18 inch and visible to this cycle. That unit suffer 1 mortal wound, and until the start of your next psychic phase, halve that unit move characteristic and subtract 2 from advance and roll charge rolls made for it. And so it's really quite interesting because you make a unit slow down quite a lot. In some way it's similar to Mind Raid, but there are two different ways. Remember that Tenebrous Curse can't go against fly units, but anyway, if you exclude those ones, it's a quite good one because it means that you can almost stop a unit from approaching your units or so on, so it becomes quite good. Sincerely, I suggest you to think about having this as a possible option if you're going to use a librarian with Phobos armor, because can be quite amazing. And then we have Temporal Corridor, that it's a blessing and has a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select one Phobos keyword unit within 6 inch of this cycle, and that unit cannot shoot or fight this turn. But if that unit is not within engagement range of any enemy models, it can either make a normal wood or it can advance as it were your movement phase. If it is advance, does not make an advance roll, instead until the end of that phase add 6 to the move characteristic of that models of that unit. So it's quite amazing if you think that you can combine, for example, with the Warlord traits shoot and fade. It means that a unit can really jump from one side of the battlefield to another almost, because it's really quite amazing. So you can really bring a unit to move to another side. It's really a psychic power that if you want to redeploy the Phobos unit can be a really great thing. Okay, you can't fight, you can shoot, but this is not important because it's about relocating a unit. In that way can be quite amazing. So think sincerely about such one, even if the range is small because it's only 6 inch, but still can make you conquer an objective or so on. It's really good. So as you can see, the psychic powers are a lot and different types. There are offensive one, defensive one, strategic ones. So it's up to you to decide which one are suited and fitted better for you. But remember also that you are not sure to be able to use such psychic power because the opponent can dispel them. So remember that there is such limitation. So they are a great adding to your armies, but you can't think that everything will be always going as you want. So pay attention when you plan something. Anyway, from Dynamod it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again. To the next time.